big shot. Oh, nice body kick. One more flurry. Oh!
Welcome to Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show. I am Kyle Anthony, and welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the betting show for UFC on ABC between Brian Ortega and Yair Rodriguez. We're going to be breaking down the main event, of course, as well as another play. And this main event is interesting because both of these guys are on the cusp of getting a title shot. I know Dana White talked about Yair getting this shot, but Brian Ortega's right there too. So we're going to be breaking that all down, but let me tell you something. We are coming off another profitable evening last weekend for clients. 3-1 on my client plays, plus 8.3 units on the evening. Big night overall, cashed our 4%, cashed some other plays there. I mean, it's been great. What can I say? It's been great. So now we've cashed in 17 of 23 events this year, dominating, gonna be surpassing 100 units. Things feel good, man. Things feel good. But like I always say here, there's no off season for UFC. We got to really focus on the next event coming up. And that's how we got to keep this going. Put our money in strong positions weekly and let everything work itself out there. So we're doing our job here, but we are going to be talking some free plays today. So, and if you want to become a client real quickly, link that in the description. Take a look. Got plays up for this week already. So let's dive in, shall we? We're going to talk Brian Ortega versus Yair Rodriguez. An exciting fight overall here. You've got the Ortega line starting to tick up a little bit. He's at minus 180. On the other side here, we've got Yair Rodriguez, who's plus 140. So minus 180 and plus 140. So like we always do here, we're going to talk 3 fights for each fighter, see what we see if one fighter can expose the other fighter, and if the line makes sense to place a wager. So the first thing we're going to be talking about here is Brian Ortega, and 3 fights ago, he fought Max Holloway. Now, to put this bluntly, Brian Ortega got the shit kicked out of him. This is one of those fights here where it just didn't pan out for him. Ortega, I think, this was actually, and we're going to talk about obviously the next 2 fights, but this was really when I think that the striking was not that good yet for Ortega, and you did see how it does increase over the next couple fights. We'll talk about that. But in the first 2 minutes, you could tell basically that Max Holloway felt comfortable. I mean, within the first few exchanges, he already felt he was kind of talking trash already. But again, not the Max Holloway way, not the Conor McGregor way. But he went out there and he was just dominating, volume, pushing forward. Clearly the better striker overall. Max was pressing with volume, keeping the pace going, and really there was nothing that Ortega could do when it comes to his stand-up. He was struggling to get Max down a couple times. Max was able to defend a lot of that. We did see, we're going to talk about that too a lot here, is Brian Ortega's heart, his durability. I mean, the guy definitely has a chin when it comes to that. I mean, definitely. But he just couldn't really get into that rhythm. He was looking for the takedowns, losing in all the exchanges on the stand-up game. And again, there just wasn't enough there for Ortega to really kind of push forward, get those takedowns. He was trying a bunch of times, couldn't get it done. So not to really dive into this one too much because Ortega got the shit kicked out of him. So with that being said, it was a doctor stoppage in the 4th round. So Brian Ortega lost against Max Holloway. 2 fights ago, Ortega fought the Korean Zombie, and this now was probably the best that we have seen Ortega when it comes to his striking. And that has been the big part about this guy's game, is that he is lethal when it comes to the ground, but if he can't really get it there, or if he doesn't get it there, can he win the fight? Does he have the ability to just stand at range, work his combinations? And this really was, I thought, a great showing of his growth in striking. Right away that you did see, I think the part of it was the switching of stances. He was smoothly orthodox to southpaw switching stances, good movement, crisp combinations from the outside. He was peppering a lot of shots to Zombie, while Zombie was looking for the big shots. And I would say in those first 2 rounds, it was fairly close. It looked like Ortega was definitely landing the more crisper shots, but really it was the dipping, spinning elbow that Yair landed against Zombie as well. He threw that, it dropped Zombie, and once that happened, I really feel like Zombie was just out of it. I mean, the guy really didn't look like, you just saw a lot of taken out of him. And then moving throughout that fight, it was just all Brian Ortega working his shots, landing, pushing forward. I mean, I think they, actually, I think it's the next fight, but they were showing the shots landed. He was landing more shots against him, and it just showed Zombie was slowing down, and Ortega kept going, kept the pressure going, landing, didn't have to go to the takedowns, and that again shows his growth, that he doesn't have to go there. I think it's his home. Obviously, that's where he wants to be, but it did show a lot. I think Zombie was even expecting a lot more takedowns, and Brian looked the best that he was on the feet, so Ortega goes out there, wins 50-45 across the board there, dominating decision victory for Ortega. So there you have it there. And then most recently, he fought Alexander Volkanovski. Now, this one here, I gotta say, you saw the power difference. I mean, that's one thing that Volkanovski has. He has such a power difference over these guys. The way he's able to push forward, move forward, land the big shots, add in those leg kicks, and he did a lot of that. He was landing more of the damaging shots. He was pushing forward on a lot of the more bigger shots. Good movement from Volkanovski too, not allowing Brian Ortega to really kind of get a hold of him, staying on the outside, keeping good range. Ortega's, can be long and lanky, and Volkanovski utilizing a lot of that footwork to kind of just keep landing the big shots, getting on the outside, landing the big shots. But in that third round was almost a game changer for Volkanovski, where I think Volkanovski again was feeling good, landing some big shots, pretty much controlling the tempo of the fight, and Ortega lands a nice shot, wobbles him, and this is something that Ortega absolutely does because he doesn't have the greatest takedown ability. So if he can get a guy that is wobbled or taking him to the ground or somewhat kind of going to the ground, he is going to dive on top of it. And the one thing he does there is he just latches on for the sub. He latches on a mounted guillotine, which was pretty much looked like the fight. He had it in completely. Volkanovski with his no neck was able to kind of pop it out. Kind of crazy. The position that he was in was a game-ending, fight-ending submission, but he ended up kind of getting out of that situation. And right from there, even Volkanovski kind of changed reverse position once he kind of popped out of it, landing vicious ground and pound. But this again shows the ability and at any point how lethal Brian Ortega can really be. And going into maybe 30 seconds later, Ortega almost had his signature move, the triangle choke. He had it on Volkanovski. It was latched in again. It looked like this was almost another situation where the fight was going to be over, and somehow Volkanovski muscles his way out of it, powers his way out of it. Again, the strength that this guy has, was able to get out of that position, kept it going over the next few rounds, does get the victory. Alexander Volkanovski does get the victory over him, but it was via decision. But it was some close spots there where Ortega was almost looking to kind of get the finish there. But either way, Volkanovski goes out there and gets decision victory. Now on the other side here, we've got Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez plus 140. And 3 fights ago, he fought Jeremy Stephens. Don't have to talk about this one here because 3 fights ago with the eye poke, and fight lasted 15 seconds. Yair gets the eye poke. That pretty much boiled over some bad blood. Going into fight number 2 for them, which was not much further past it. And right away, both of these guys go into this situation here, throwing big shots. You could tell that, announcers were kind of talking about it. These guys hate each other. These guys hate each other. Throwing big shots all together. But the one thing that you did see here is just the speed of Yair. Yair has great speed. The way he can really, without kind of any tells, he can really fire the leg kick, fire a body kick, these spinning kicks that he does have power behind, quick combinations, and he's able to do that, and that really dictated the pace early in that fight, I think. And this is the one here where I think the first round he had triple the amount of strikes landed over Jeremy Stephens. There really wasn't too close early on. Those first 2 rounds were pretty much all Yair landing big shots. He landed a big body shot in that second round, dropped Stephens. He ended up staying on top of Stephens, doing some ground and pound there. In that third round, Yair, I think, really went for some of these finishes here in that second round where he was looking for the big shots. Stephens was hurt. He was really going all in. It was a 3-round fight. And going into that third round, Stephens ended up getting the takedown, got the takedown, did some ground and pound, and pretty much in that position there, Yair was not looking to really get out or really kind of leave himself vulnerable. He knew he was up 2 rounds already. It was very clear that he was up 2 rounds already. So he played defense on the ground, ended up kind of getting through that third round, gets the decision victory. But the first 2 rounds were Yair just looked really levels above Jeremy Stephens via striking. But he goes out there and he gets the decision victory. So there you have it there. And then most recently, Yair fought Max Holloway. This is an interesting fight, I thought, because the fact that both of these guys are going to stand, they're going to bang, they're going to throw, they're high level when it comes to the stand-up game, and this just was a display of that early in the fight. I mean, both of these guys landing quick shots, Max keeping volume, even Yair keeping good volume. Both of these guys were throwing big shots early, and the one thing that you did see is that Max, with the volume and the pressure, really started to melt away a little bit of Yair. Now, Yair was still throwing, he was still, being active, and it wasn't like he was, hurt. I mean, he definitely was getting hit on a big over, but it just showed that he was able to kind of keep that pace. That is a weapon for Max Holloway. He can just go out there and just keep throwing volume, pushing forward, round after round after round, and that's really how it kind of wilted away Yair. He ends up getting, Max Holloway ends up getting the decision victory over Yair Rodriguez, so there you have it there. Now, with that being said, first thing we're going to say here is the striking. Now, obviously, we all know, not telling you something you don't know here, but, Yair has the elite level striking compared to somebody like Brian Ortega. He's got great footwork. The speed advantage is definitely going to be there with combinations. That's going to be tough for him early. The slicker combinations, the lethal kicking game that he has overall, and that, again, is something that guys got to really look out for, where he's been able to land some damaging shots by guys kind of, hey, he's just working the legs, he's just chipping away at leg kicks, all of a sudden he throws a spinning head kick. So the versatility that he brings to his striking is something that has to be worrisome for Ortega, who does not have that level. But again, we do see that Ortega he's evolving. There's no doubt that he's evolving. We've seen it. We just kind of touched on it a little bit there, that he continues to evolve. But again, not at that level that Yair is at. Now we talk about the grappling side. That's not close on that side either. You got Ortega, who is just extremely elite level when it comes to Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's got he's able to latch on to any body part and find the finish, always submission hunting when he is in those clinches, when he is on top position, even on bottom position, he's always looking for those finishes. And we've seen Yair just display some really bad vulnerabilities when it comes to the takedowns. It's just not having the wrestling, not having the ability to kind of, get out of certain situations. He's always been able to be taken down. He can scramble back up, but he has had that ability where we've seen, the vulnerability that we've seen Frankie Edgar absolutely maul him. And now obviously, Ortega is not Frankie Edgar when it comes to takedowns. Edgar will just sell out, double power leg, drive through, get the takedowns. That's not something Ortega does, but you do see that the vulnerability is there. So it's really your classic grappler versus striker matchup. Who's going to really implement their game plan is really what it's going to come down to. Now, the other side of this here is look at the cardio situation. And, both these guys have gone 5 rounds. They've gone, we just talked about it. Yair went 5 hard rounds with Max Holloway, who pressed out a lot of volume. But the one thing that you really do see with Yair, now this is, again, it's going to be a 5-round fight, but the thing that you do see here is the fact that Yair early in the fight, round 1, rounds 2, getting into even round 3, but rounds 1 and 2, he is highly dangerous. The guy will press the volume, he will look for the big shots early, he is going to look for, he knows that he has such, the ability to land some explosive shots that, again, he's going to have the striking over Ortega. So the one thing here we see is that it ticks down after rounds 1 and 2. It just ticks down, and you do see that the volume slows down, the versatility of the strikes slow down. Again, he can still throw. We've seen him against Max Holloway again. Seen him there throw, and it's not like he can't, but you do see that explosiveness tick down, which is going to be really important. Again, and the fact that he does a lot of activities that really drain your cardio. When you're talking about these spinning attacks, when you're talking about these aggressive kicking game, that also lowers your cardio. These are big movements. They take energy to do, and I think that it being those weapons being Yair's biggest weapon, that hurts him. I think that hurts him because he doesn't have the ability to do much else. Obviously, again, striking is up there, top level, but if that's all he can do over a 5-round fight, it's going to be very difficult if somebody can work in level changes, if somebody can kind of grind at him a little bit and slow down that volume. And again, Brian Ortega is not going to be scared to walk him down. He's not going to be scared to look and push forward on Yair, because Yair's not going to be going for takedowns. You want to smother the kicker. Brian Ortega is going to be pushing forward. He's not going to look to stay at range. He's going to be walking him down. Plus, when you're walking backwards, it takes more cardio walking backwards. So Ortega is going to be comfortable moving forward, pushing out volume, keeping it maybe more in boxing range than kickboxing range. So that also could drain his cardio as well too. And now we talk about the takedowns part of this. Ortega's success rate isn't that great. He's got a 24% takedown success rate, not the greatest. It's definitely not the greatest. But the one part about this is that Yair's not a big guy. He's a little bit more on the frail side. He's not a big guy when it comes to his frame, and that has allowed some guys to kind of take him down or whatever it may be. Now, the big part about this is the fact that we have seen over many of the fights, it's not just the takedowns. It's the fact that a lot of times Yair kind of flops to the ground. And we saw it multiple times against Max Holloway, even against Jeremy Stevens. It happened where he is doing so many of these spin kicks, these different angles, and a guy will kind of rush in, not even looking for a takedown, but rush in with some kind of counter. And Yair's kind of off balance because he's throwing these kicks and he falls down. A lot of guys who don't have the grappling of Ortega couldn't keep him there or don't have the submissions. Max Holloway does not have the submission game that he does, as well as Jeremy Stevens, of course, doesn't either. But the opportunities are there. They are definitely there. And how much time that he slips and falls and kicks and falls and slips and falls out of place, it happens so much. And again, for a guy who's a little bit more on the frail side, this could be more opportunities and windows for someone like Brian Ortega to just latch on. And it's a kind of position where Brian Ortega is so good when it comes to the ground game, and Yair is not that good when it comes to the ground game, that it only may need one takedown. That's kind of the level where I'm looking at this, that Brian Ortega has such a high level of grappling, such a high level of submission game, that he may not need much. He may not need much to just find the opening, get him down, and work to a submission. And also the fact that you've got Brian Ortega, over the last 3 guys that he fought, all of them have better takedown defense rate than Yair. You've got Max Holloway, who has an 84% takedown defense rate, Korean Zombie 72%, and Volkanovski 73%. So all these guys have very good takedown defense rate, which makes it even tougher for Ortega to implement his game plan there. So for me here, I like Brian Ortega. I think Brian Ortega has the opportunity to go out there, dictate the pace, kind of work on Yair in different positions here. And I really like, I like Ortega, but I like Ortega via submission. Plus 280 is a great number to be here. I think this is a spot here again where Ortega may not need many takedowns to get this submission. He may need one, and he sinks in the submission. I think he's going to be able to push forward early. I think it could be a little iffy where you've got Yair throwing these explosive kicks, but I think it ticks down slowly throughout the fight. I think Ortega waits for his spot, gets the takedown, finds that submission finish. So I do like Brian Ortega via submission, plus 280 as my free play. And the other play we're going to be talking about here is Jack Shore versus Ricky Simone. We've got Jack Shore, he's minus 185. We've got Ricky Simone plus 145, depending where you're shopping it. And this is a great matchup here. I mean, this is one I am really excited just to watch as a spectator. Overall, I think it's just a great stylistic matchup for both these guys. You've got Jack Shore, who is, a great grappler. He's got the ability. He's an undefeated fighter. A lot of hype behind this guy. But the one thing I think that's the biggest differentiator between these two guys is the explosiveness that Ricky Simone has. I think that's the biggest gap between these two guys. And that to me is very important for a guy like Ricky Simone going against a guy who has some similar, grappling, abilities and looking to get inside the clinch. The explosiveness always is going to help dictate the pace a little bit more. And I also like the fact that, I don't really think that Simone is going to be just shooting for takedowns, but I love his first step. I love how explosive and how he shoots these double legs and drives through his opponent, and he has vicious ground and pound. He's got great top control. He's able to kind of dictate the pace in that fight, in those certain fights, and he's a big, strong guy. Physically is another advantage for Ricky Simone. I mean, the guy is, besides for just being explosive, he's big for the division. He has definitely shown he is a stronger guy, bigger frame, and I think in certain situations, it's going to help him not only look for his own takedowns and have that top control time, but also defending takedowns. Even where they're going to be in a clinching situation, up against the fence, whatever it may be, I think that Simone has the strength And not only that, but backing that with his grappling skill set to get out of danger. Where you've seen certain spots where Jack Shore, even though he has wins, where it's gotten tough and he starts reaching for legs, not really shooting how he probably should be shooting. And that, to me, it's really going to be a tough spot for him to just kind of push and try to get that takedown from or the takedown on Ricky Simone. And then also the fact here is the striking. I give that also to Ricky Simone as well. I think that he's got crisper striking. He's got the harder hits. He's going to be definitely going to be able to hit harder than Jack Shore. I think Jack Shore is really just going to kind of push for those takedowns. I don't think that he's going to get those takedowns. I think that Ricky Simone is going to be defending them very nicely, utilizing his strength. And I think, again, the power shots, the damaging shots are going to be there. Now, if it kind of nullifies each other, where sometimes that happens to grapplers, they can't implement that, and then it kind of becomes kind of a striking matchup. If that happens, I favor Ricky Simone as well. If they're just standing at the feet and they're both kind of defending takedowns and working at range, I like the striking of Ricky Simone better. And there's another guy too that you see fight after fight, he consistently is elevating his striking, and I think that's going to be a big advantage too. And then the last advantage for Ricky Simone here is the competition level. It's not even close when you look at it. And Ricky Simone, who, again, young dude, kind of, both these guys, coming up within the division. If you look at, I would say Jack Shore's, biggest win is Timur Valiev in his last fight, which I'm actually pretty high in Valiev. I think Valiev is a good fighter. But Ricky Simone has fought Uriah Faber, Rob Font, Ray Borg, Rafael Sunsao, who he just recently knocked out. The last 4 years, Ricky Simone's fought very tough competition. He's fought very tough competition. So this is going to be probably the toughest fight for Jack Shore. So for me in this spot here, it's a dog or pass completely for me here. I think Ricky Simone plus 145 is great value. Even if Shore goes out there and gets a first round submission victory, I don't like the number. I think this is off. I think it's absolutely a dog or pass for me here. So I do like Ricky Simone plus 145 to go out there, dictate the pace of the fight, get off of those any opportunities that Jack Shore is going to look for the takedowns, defend those nicely, work his striking, and find his way to get a victory. So I like Ricky Simone plus 145 as my other free play. So those are my free plays for UFC on ABC this weekend. If you want to become a client, link down in the description. And let's keep this going. What do you say? We keep this going. Let's pop some Casamigo. And I'll see you at the next show. This is Kyle Anthony's UFC Betting Show, and I'll see you next time.